Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. A long overdue WTA Wimbledon 2022 review. We're going to get into it, of course. We're going to do player analysis, go through whether I think people have exceeded expectations, met them, or actually not met them at all and been below what we expected of them, of course, as well. Before we get into it, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. If you're a podcast listener or watcher, leave a rating, review, subscribe, follow us, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. Remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well. QualityShot1 on Twitter and QualityShot.f on Instagram. Cool. Let's get into this then. So, Elena Rybakina with a shock win, really, over Ons Jabeur in 3 sets in the final because no one expected her to probably make the final, let alone beat who was the favorite in the final, Ons Jabeur. Now, of course, both players playing in their first ever Grand Slam final, but at 23 years of age? The player from Kazakhstan, I know we'll quickly touch, I guess, upon some sort of controversy, but not really in my eyes, around her heritage. And I guess Wimbledon banning Russians and Belarusians at playing at the tournament. But she played really well, and it was a campaign of power and precision from the 6 foot just powerhouse of a player. A really, really impressive win from her, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see her winning more than just that one slam. Now, she could be a one-shot wonder. We've seen a lot of them on the women's side, and I guess that probably attests to how deep the women's side is, which is fantastic to see. But what I would say is, realistically, that Rybakina is a very, very tough opponent to play when she's on her game. She has a huge serve. I mean, regularly topping the 120 mile per hour mark, hits her spots, and from the back of the court, she's very powerful as well. There's definitely some frailties there in terms of consistency, but she had a very good tournament and she was hot for pretty much most of it. I think that's what made the difference. In the final against Ons Jabeur, I think Jabeur didn't play her best tennis, I have to say, and she did have a lot of breakpoint opportunities, but credit to Rybakina for saving them. I think Jabeur will look back at that final and think she had a massive dip in the second set when she did have breakpoints and obviously ended up losing it. I just think, look, if we're looking at it as a isolated final, it was exciting. There were definitely peaks and troughs from both players, but Rybakina just held her nerve better. She was the underdog, and I think she was a lot calmer and more composed in the big moments, and that's why she ended up winning it. To really sum it up, Jabeur, I think, backhand slice wasn't working much at all in that final, which is surprising because normally it's very, very good. But she was struggling with it a lot. A couple of attempted drop shot returns on the second set, which I thought was a really bad tactic. And Rybakina ended up winning the forehand exchanges for the most part. And Jabeur, for some reason, wanted to get into those exchanges with her, which I thought was a bit crazy. And I don't know why she didn't go down the line with the forehand. And maybe she just ended up getting into a pattern of play and maybe thought, I don't want to take the risk going down the line. But she's a top player. She's a top 5 player on Jabeur, and I feel like she didn't quite do herself a service maybe in the final. Personally, I didn't think it was a bad performance. I don't think it was a choke by any means, but I don't think it's the level that she would have wanted. And I think part of that will be down to the nerves, but then also Rybakina is playing her first Grand Slam final, so both players would have had nerves at the start. She actually took the first set, which is a good sign, and she has been known to have dips in the second set. I get it, but then she normally comes back to have a second wind. And I just feel like she didn't take a few opportunities, especially in the second set and start of the third set with break points. And in the end, it was more of a mental game. And I feel like Rybakina really kept her cool throughout. And I was very, very impressed with that, especially with her age as well, a level of maturity shown, and that's great to see. A very muted celebration after winning it, but that's kind of her trademark. She was a bit more, I guess, emotional even, sorry, in the, I think it was the post-match press conference and at the winners ball, etc. So that's good to see. Yeah, I guess people were surprised she didn't drop on her knees. Didn't really feel like a final after she won because of her celebration. But what I would say is a fantastic tournament for her. I'm very much looking forward to seeing her going forward as well. I hadn't seen a huge amount of her. I've obviously seen her in matches, but I hadn't seen, her play multiple times. So great to see her get the win. And of course, we have a new Grand Slam champion on the women's side. And look, it's great to have this depth on the women's side. It is. Shame for Ons Jabeur because she was kind of playing for history with the chance to become the first African and Arab player to win a Grand Slam trophy, which would have been incredible. And she is older. She's what, 27. So I really hope it doesn't break her, and we'll talk about her more in depth. But before we do talk about Ons Jabeur, I think we need to mention very briefly the nationality, I guess, conundrum that people are talking about with Rybakina, which is that she changed her citizenship to Kazakhstan 2 years ago, but she actually lives in Moscow, and also was born in Russia and raised in Russia, basically, right? So she has Russian heritage. I mean, women only have themselves to blame, really, for banning the Russian and Belarusian players, and it's just the way it's worked out. I think from what I know, she changed citizenship a couple of years ago because of the, if I'm not mistaken, mainly because she wasn't getting a huge amount of chances with the Russian team and I think Beijing Cup, and so understandable to then switch allegiances so that you can have more chances, which a lot of tennis players do if they've got roots in other countries. So no kind of big surprise there. But yeah, that's what I've got to say on it, really. Let's talk about Ons Jabeur. So Rybakina winning her first ever Grand Slam in her first ever final. So she's off to a fantastic start in her Grand Slam final career. For Ons Jabeur wasn't to be for her in her first ever Grand Slam final. And she went into it the favorite, and I wonder whether that did play on her a little bit. But the one thing I will say about her performance, as I mentioned it before, is that it wasn't to the best standard and what we maybe expect of her normally. There were definitely flashes of it, as there always is. She's a supremely talented tennis player. The issue I think she may have is the mental aspect, because she would have seen this as a golden opportunity because she didn't have to play a Swiatek in the final. She didn't have to play a Halep, someone really experienced, someone who's been there before. She played against someone who was in their first ever Grand Slam final like her. So someone inexperienced, someone who doesn't have that know-how and knows how to manage the big occasion and has been there and done it. And I feel like she probably would have thought playing a Halep or a Swiatek or even like a Muguruza, if she'd actually made a run, for example, someone who's won a slam before, it would have been tougher for her to then combat the opponent in the final. But the flip of that is potentially it might have been a case of, well, okay, that's fine, but maybe if she was the underdog, she might have played better because she had less to lose, and that could have been the case as well. So I guess it's a double-edged sword in that sense, but for her, it was a fantastic tournament. I mean, her first ever Grand Slam final after the disappointment at Roland Garros, where she lost in the first round after a fantastic clay court swing. She then had a good grass court swing so far up until Wimbledon, and then just played really, really well. So great to see her make a final. Great to see her, with that smile on her face and playing some of her best tennis and really piecing it together. And that's what we want to see. Like, I guess, kind of similar to Nick Kyrgios, really, in a way, in the sense that they're both, I think, similar age. And Ons Jabeur, I think, she had a successful junior career, but struggled to maybe adapt to the pros when she turned pro. It's taken her quite a few years. She's got to that stage, and I feel like, she's definitely more consistent than Kyrgios because she's in the top 5 in the world. She's won more titles, if I'm not mistaken, than Kyrgios as well. But generally, in terms of how it clicked at this tournament, I feel like it really did click. And I'm hoping that she doesn't have any mental scarring from this, and rather she takes it as the opportunity to say, okay, well, look, I made a final. Okay, it didn't go my way, but actually I'm good enough to be in that position. I'm good enough to win the Grand Slam. I'm gonna be there again. and set her sights in at the US Open, where I think she may have a decent chance of going deep as well there. So let's see how she gets on. I'm really hoping she just finds that confidence within herself. I know she used to get really bad anxiety in high pressure moments and used to throw up at the side of the court. I know that's kind of cut out in the last kind of year or so or 2 years, which is fantastic because she's managed to deal with that, and like amazing, like kudos to her because I can imagine it's very, very tough. So great to see her, I guess fulfilling the potential that everyone knows she has, and I hope that she does get that elusive Grand Slam title, and she has another, at least gives herself another chance or two anyway to do it, which will be interesting because you just felt like she was ready to become a Grand Slam champion. But in the end, it just wasn't to be. It wasn't to be. In terms of the other women, then, and actually, sorry, I should probably mention for Rybakina and Jabeur, they both, I think, exceeded expectations. I actually had Jabeur winning the title, and she didn't do it. But in terms of, I think, general expectations, I think they both exceeded it. Some people would have backed Jabeur to win the title, but I think her making the final still, is pretty damn good. So let's talk about some of the other players, and I think we can talk about someone like a Swan Halep who was definitely rejuvenated and looked pretty good. Rybakina though just tore her apart in the semi-final, honestly, and I think she was just outpowered really from the back of the court. Struggled to keep up with Rybakina and the pace on her ground strokes. And it was just a tough one for her, and I get that. And maybe it's just a case of the age showing a little bit against a younger, fresher opponent who isn't going to be outmaneuvered from the back of the court. And I feel like Halep maybe wasn't able to handle how hot Rybakina was playing at the time. So I think a lot of people, a lot of players, if not pretty much all players, would struggle against Rybakina in that form. So not a lot of negatives to take from that, but it was a good run. Made the semi-finals, and of course, she was the official reigning champion after Ash Barty's retired, so 2019 champion. And look, it was a good run from her. So good to see her coming through and playing some good tennis, no doubt. Then we've got some other players. I mean, Swiatek we can talk about because she was on that 37 match unbeaten streak and then lost to Cornet early in the tournament as well, which was really surprising because at least Cornet is a good player, but you wouldn't have expected her to beat, Iga Swiatek. But she has been in very, very good form, very good form in the grass court swing. She really has been. So that's been fantastic for her. And of course, beat Swiatek in the third round as well. So if you think about that, I mean, not ideal, right? Not ideal for Swiatek and 6-4, 6-2. She struggled though, to be fair, throughout the whole tournament. And I feel having absolutely zero match practice on the grass before Wimbledon was a bad choice. And I know she had maybe a niggle or two, but I just feel if she had any opportunity to play even just a tournament beforehand, it would have been really beneficial because from the first round onwards, she just looked like she wasn't comfortable with the pace of the court. She looked like she was struggling to find her timing on the ground strokes because, she just was mistiming the ball a little bit and a little bit late or a little bit early because of the lower bounce, it's skidding on. Everything just looks a bit awkward from the back of the court in the exchanges. And it wasn't at all times. And obviously, she's a class player, so she found a rhythm and she's played on grass before, but you just felt like she was 1 week off, right? As in, it's almost like she just needed a week beforehand to play and she would have been fine. But she didn't even get past that first week, and that's the reason I feel because she just lacked that match practice. And yes, it might also be to do with some burnout. I mean, 37 matches in a row is a fantastic unbeaten streak. She was a heavy favorite as well going in, not as much as Roland Garros, but still a favorite. So still the favorite. So I wonder whether that played on her a little bit, but I don't think it would have. I think she has handled the pressure really well since becoming number one. I just think she just lost to the better player on the day, and Cornet played some really good tennis. Unfortunately, lost in the next round, at the round of 16 to Tomjanovic, but in the end, a very good win for her. I mean, we can talk about Aya Tomjanovic actually as well, as we just mentioned. I mean, she made the quarterfinals, lost to Rybakina, took the first set though. This is again like another quarterfinal at Wimbledon, so she clearly likes the grass, and interesting to see if she can replicate some of that form in some of the other slams, like for example the US or maybe even Australia, where the speed of court's quite similar. Of course, it's not as kind of as low bouncing and doesn't skid on as much, but still, like it plays similar in terms of the speed anyway. So good tournament for her, and I'm glad to see her getting through the quarterfinals. Good to see her in good form, and of course, losing to the eventual winner is no shame in that. Then we can talk about some other players, and of course, Tomjanovic I think exceeded expectations for me making the quarters. Swiatek, I mean, did definitely below expectations in my opinion. Halep, I think, met expectations. I think she was expected to make about the semi-finals. Then we can talk about a couple of the Americans actually, because I want to talk about them, and then I want to talk about some of the Canadians or Canadian, and some of the Brits as well. So maybe go through in national order. Um, so at Wimbledon, I mean, Coco Gauff lost to Anisimova in the third round. I had her actually making the semis at least, Coco Gauff, if not the final. I just thought, you know what, this is going to be her year. She just made the final at Roland Garros, great run there, and I just thought she's got a massive serve, big weapons from the back of the court. She's a great mover, great defensively. She should be able to have some sort of success here. Unfortunately, she ran into Anisimova in the third round, who's been in great form this year, and she's just a fantastic player. Young herself, I think only 19 or 20, and she ended up beating Gauff in 3 sets, and it was a fantastic match to watch. Anisimova is just power personified from the back of the court, and she had chances against Simona Halep in I think it was the quarterfinals, where she had chances to break back and even things up in the second set and kind of blew it after being 40 love up on the return game. So that will potentially kind of play on her mind going forward. But she will be playing at home at the US Open, and you feel like that should give these girls a bit more of a push as well. So hopefully we can see Anisimova and Gauff going pretty far there, because they're so talented, and it's great to see them progressing so far. And yeah, losing the quarterfinals 6-2, 6-4 to Simona Halep, and she continues to, I think, impress Amanda Anisimova. Big serve, big from the back of the court, but just continually trying to improve, you feel. And I do see incremental improvements every time, every kind of tournament, every major tournament anyway, that she plays. So good to see. Of course, another kind of revelation is Harmony Tan. And before I talk about her, actually, Anisimova, I think, met expectations making the quarters. I think Coco Gauff was below expectations. I was expecting it to go further. For Harmony Tan, she definitely exceeded expectations. She made the round of 16, eventually falling to Anisimova. But of course, she beat Serena, which was a fantastic win for Harmony Tan. She beat Katie Bolter, who had just beaten Pliskova the round before. She beat Sribas Tormo as well. So that's a fantastic little run for the French player, and really, really impressive. 24 years of age. She's still got a lot of years ahead of her. So good to see her getting some interesting wins. And she is a very intriguing player. Slices a lot of forehand slices, hitting angles short. She's really, really trying to. I think she's very much trying to make it difficult for the opponent as much as possible, and that's great to see for sure. And I hope that. That we see more of her and her style, because I think when you have two players who play a similar style like that, it might be not maybe the best watch, but otherwise it's great to watch against someone who's playing attacking tennis, because it's a great yin and yang, and the styles gel well together. And of course, she double breadstick Katie Bolter as well, which I thought was very impressive. Beat Sribas Tormo in straight sets, and Serena Williams, of course, 10-7 in a championship tiebreaker. So definitely exceeded expectations. Another American, actually, and I was talking about Americans, and obviously forgot the GOAT in Serena Williams. Look, I mean, she hasn't played a lot of tennis in a long time, and I wasn't surprised that she, lost to Harmony Tan. She was very close to winning it, to be fair. Very, very close. So, there's a lot of kind of positives to take from that. But realistically, she's at the back end of her career. She's not going to have many more opportunities, I would imagine, at Grand Slams. I would expect her to potentially maybe play next year and then retire. But I don't want to massively speculate. That's just my opinion on it. But we'll see. But great to see her back, and the sport is better with her. So hopefully we can at least see her play the US Open this year, and if not beyond. And hopefully she gets a couple of tournaments under her belt so that she's fully fit for that as well and able to play to the best of her ability. The best of her ability while she can anyway. At this age, at home. Let's touch upon the Brits then. So first of all, we can talk about Katie Bolt. I mean, she had a fantastic tournament, and for Serena Williams, by the way, I think she met expectations. I mean, first round, knee got it done. I wasn't expecting it to go that far. I'm not surprised she lost in the first round. For Katie Bolter, look, I mean, she exceeded expectations for me. Beat Burrell in the first round, Pliskova in the second. I know she beat Pliskova previously in the grass court swing, but it's still an impressive win over the Wimbledon finalist from last year. And then I think probably below expectation performance against Harmony Tan, but making the third round for me is exceeding expectations. So Harmony Tan beat her at 6-1, 6-1. That would have definitely annoyed her, no doubt, but in the end, a pretty good win for her. And then, of course, we would have talked about the 2020 US Open champion, Emma Raducanu, who had a look. I mean, she didn't have the tournament she wanted, right? I mean, lost in the end to Caroline Garcia, who, yes, had been in good form on the grass court swing, but eventually ended up losing anyway, not too far after. She looked pretty good against Van Uytvanck, and then against Caroline Garcia, it wasn't a thrashing. It was 6-3, 6-3, but she still lost. And I get that people want her to go very far, and they want her to, potentially, make another semi, make another final, potentially win another Grand Slam ASAP. They have to remember she's still very young. She's still got a lot to learn. She's still not the complete article, and it's her first full season. So these mixed results are going to happen. She's not going to win a huge amount like people are expecting. And yeah, look, it is what it is. I think Caroline Garcia played really well. Raducanu could have played better, no doubt. Probably a little bit passive in some of the points, but she'll learn and she'll hopefully improve. But yeah, Caroline Garcia eventually fell to Pliskova in the round of 16. I think she met expectations to me because she had a good grass court swing. So I feel like that's meeting expectations from my point of view. Caroline Garcia, that is. And then, of course, Paula Badosa. I mean, she didn't. I think she was below expectations. I expected her to give, Simona Halep a much, much harder game of it, or match even against, against Simona Halep. Paula Badosa lost 6-1, 6-2 in the round of 16. With her seeding of number 4, you expect her to go very far and at least kind of make the quarters, if not semi-finals at least. But in the end, couldn't do it. And I was pretty disappointed with her showing against Halep. Just very, very scattergun. So many mistakes. I hope she manages to just sort this out for Grand Slams and makes a run pretty soon, because I feel like if you're going to be number 4 seed, number 4 in the world, you've got to really back yourself, and the semi-finals is your projected, finishing point at a Grand Slam at least. So that's what she should be aiming for. For Kavitava, she lost to Paula Badosa, by the way, the third round. That was a very impressive win from Badosa, winning 7-5, 7-6. So that's what I think makes the next match against Halep so disappointing. And I guess you can say a bit of misfortune with having to face Kavitova in the third round of Wimbledon champion, and then Halep in the fourth round. So back-to-back Wimbledon champions, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? That's just the way the cookie crumbles. I want to talk about Andreescu because she was my dark horse, and I feel like she's been playing some good tennis. I think personally the loss against Rybakina doesn't really bother me too much, because she's definitely someone who, look, I mean, she fought 6-4, 7-6 is the 6-4, 7-6 to Rybakina. If Andreescu somehow takes a tiebreaker because it was 7-5 in the tiebreaker, you don't know what's going to happen, but a close one, and that can happen against a big surfer on a quick surface. That's just kind of the way it is, but she's improving. She made the second round, of course, here. I feel like she kind of met expectations. I didn't expect her to go super far. But I actually expected her to beat Rybakina, but of course, Rybakina, little did I know, was extremely dangerous as she came through. So very, very impressive from her. Um, yeah, I think that's really it in terms of the players. I think Sakari went out early, but why is that surprising? I mean, she's not particularly good on the grass. I would say lost in the third round to Maria. And actually, no, we've got to discuss Tatiana Maria, of course, because she lost in the semi-finals to Jabeur, really good friends. But what a run from the mum of two, who's had, of course, two maternity leaves, has come back and she's managed to just incredible. She's managed to now make a semi-final of a Grand Slam, and not just a Grand Slam at Wimbledon. She beat Sharma, Kirsty, Sakari, Osterpenko, Niemia, and then of course lost to Jabeur in three sets. But fantastic wins. I mean, Osterpenko, a lot of people thought she was a dark horse, beat her in the round of 16. Sakari beat her in the third round. She exceeded expectations more than anyone else. Maria, and what a tournament it was for her. Osterpenko, I think, matched expectations with her 12th ranked seeding, a little bit of form as well in the swing. And Sakari, I think, below expectations. I mean, third round is not good enough. She should be making at least the quarters, you would say. So, a shame to see that. But yeah, just not very good at the moment. Yeah, yeah, just really poor in the Grand Slams, to be honest with you. Sakari just not able to find her best tennis, and I know she made the semi-finals of the U.S. Open last year, but Raducanu beat her in the end pretty comfortably, and that was a big chance for her, no doubt. But I just feel that the pressure maybe gets her a little bit, and she doesn't seem to be able to find her best tennis in the big moments in these on the Grand Slam stage, and reminds me a little bit of Hubert Hurkacz. And I was talking about this with Gil on the ATP review that we did, and I agree with him in that Hubert Hurkacz is the same. And has won Masters tournaments, has gone deep in those tournaments as well regularly. But when it comes to Grand Slams, only the one quarter final of a Grand Slam, one semi final, sorry, like Sakari. He made a semi final of Wimbledon last year, and Sakari made the semi final of the US. And both players just struggling to consistently go deep at slams. And her ranking isn't reflective of her Grand Slam, I guess, threat, let's say, currently. So hopefully she can sort that out pretty quickly. Yeah, that's really all I have to say on the specific players. Trying to think if I missed anyone. Also goes without saying Sakari was below expectations for sure. Didn't meet them whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, Krejcikova lost early, but look, she's not played any tennis in between Grand Slams and went to the French Open cold, went into Wimbledon cold. She won the doubles, so fantastic, and she's a fantastic doubles player, but she's also a really good singles player, and it's just a shame we haven't seen her more. I think she's been taking longer breaks because of the mental aspect as well and bubble fatigue. I think she kind of cited early when they were in bubbles earlier in the year, but also I think she did have injuries, so I hope we kind of see her. I feel like this year might be a bit of a write-off for her. So let's see how she gets on next year, potentially, maybe fresh and maybe rejuvenated as well. In terms of my match of the year, it's tough to say, really. I thought Maria Osterpenko was fantastic. This is, of course, match of the tournament, sorry, at Wimbledon. I thought Maria Osterpenko was a fantastic one. It was 5-7, 7-5, 7-5, Maria. Great match to watch. I'm going to go with that because I think Maria obviously is a bit of slicing and dicing, very good defensively, hits the backhand slice a lot, barely hits the drive backhand, occasionally forehand slices as well. Ostapenko, power from the back of the court, a big first serve, second serve is very weak though. We saw a lot of long rallies, a lot of fantastic points finished off, and it was just a great match to watch and a clash of styles for me. So a bit of a left field pick, but that's mine. And then favorite moment, there's loads. I think actually Jabeur beating Maria in the semi-finals, and then Jabeur actually took, before Maria went off court, she basically went up to her, and they're very good friends as well, and just said to her, no, come on, like she put her hand up and so the crowd would cheer for Maria first to say, what a fantastic job because she's done so well to come back from 2 maternity leaves and make a Grand Slam semi-final. And Jabeur said it in the speech after. Obviously, just an incredible gesture from Jabeur as well. And Maria deserved it. She really did. So that's kind of my review for Wimbledon 2022 from a WTA side. Hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. And of course, leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of Wimbledon from the women's perspective. What was good? What disappointed you maybe? Do you have any points that you think maybe I missed? Let me know. Thank you so much, guys. See you later.